Hello everyone. The film is set in Turkey where a newspaper editor named Sarah on her way to work calls her grandmother to check on her health. But her grandmother doesn't answer her call. Sarah is worried about her grandmother and decides to visit her at home. Sarah doesn't find her grandmother at home, but she does meet someone named Denise, who is thought to be the grandson of Sarah's grandmother's neighbor. Denise tells Sarah that he's also looking for his grandmother because she's not answering his calls, and it seems that Denise and Sarah had been neighbors and friends since childhood, but they have become hateful towards each other because of a situation that happened with them 15 years ago. Sarah hears the sound of her grandmother's phone ringing inside the house and feels more worried. Then she grabs Denise's headset and tries to break down the house door, and suddenly, the grandmothers arrive home and tell Sarah and Denise that they were at the beach and left the phones at home. But what happened was just a plan by the grandmothers to arrange a surprise meeting between Sarah and Denise. Sarah's grandmother tells this that the reason for the plan to combine her with Denise is that she wants to check out her love life and advises her to get away from work and think about clearing her life. Because Sarah worries about work all the time and doesn't want to enter. She's not in a relationship with any man because she's waiting for the right person to fall in love with. Sarah's assistant Aho calls her, and we understand from their conversation that Sarah has been looking for an unknown photographer for a month because she would get a promotion at her job if she met the unknown photographer, but she knows nothing about him except his name. Aho tells Sarah that his colleague named Kara is trying to convince the manager to promote him. Sarah gets very upset and tells Oak that she's determined to reach the unknown photographer as soon as possible. Then she goes to Denise's house and apologizes to him for her style with him in the morning. And we notice that Denise is trying to treat her provocatively because he's still annoyed with her because of her broken helmet. The next day, Denise's grandmother is trying to get her cat down from the tree, and Sarah tries to help her. But Denise's grandmother pulls the ladder and leaves Sarah hanging from the tree, and it's clear that Denise's grandmother's plan is for Denise and Sarah to get closer to each other, and Denise quickly runs and tries to help Sarah down from the tree. Sarah tells her that she doesn't need her help because she can climb down on her own. Then she tries to jump but crashes into the ladder. This hurts Denise's head and ends the day. Sarah visits Denise to apologize to him, checks up on him, and notices that there are lots of photos in his house, and finally discovers that Denise is the photographer she's been looking for several months. Sarah is shocked and remembers that Denise has loved photography ever since he was young, then decides to reconcile with him in any way to get the promotion in his work, and also decides to get close to him and confess her love since childhood. Then she meets her water assistant and tells him he should think up a plan to convince Denise to interview him. Sarah receives a phone call from her colleague Karam, who proposes a bet. Karam says Sarah must tender her resignation from the job if she loses the bet and promises to tender her resignation if Sarah wins the bet, and also says he'll do his best to stop her from meeting Denise. The next day, Sarah prepares breakfast for Denise and her friend Olash, then gives him a new helmet in place of the broken one. But Denise is embarrassed when he notices that the helmet is designed for girls. Sarah apologizes to him and tells him that the helmet was sent by mistake, and Denise thanks her for everything and leaves. At the end of the day, Ao tells Denise that she's thinking of a plan to get close to Denise's friend Olash to find out all about Denise, and Sarah seems to agree with the plan and says she'll do anything to interview Denise. And the next day, Ao and Sarah go to Olash's restaurant, which is at the beach, and enlighten there that Olash is very impressed with Ao because he asks her to go for a ride with him. Sarah decides to go with Dennis to a quiet place and rides with him on his motorcycle. She seems to be very scared because she hates motorcycles because her parents died in a traffic accident, and after they arrive at the beach, Dennis seems to love Sarah but tries to pretend all the time that he hates her. Sarah and Denise take advantage of the opportunity and take pictures of each other without their attention, and at night, Sarah tries to seduce Denise, then pushes him into the water and also catches up with him in order to spend time with him in the water. But Denise bothers her a lot and tells her that he gets into trouble every time Sarah tries to get her motorcycle have been lost to her, and now they have to walk home. Then he gets very angry with Sarah and asks her to stay away from him because he's facing problems because of her. Then he moves into his second house to stay away from her. The next day, the two grandmothers decide to make a new plan to meet in the market between Sarah and Denise. because she plans to use two young men pretending to harass Sarah, and Denise can try to defend her. And indeed, Grandma asks Sarah to wait for her outside the store, and Denise's grandmother asks Denise to wait until she leaves the store too. Sarah is sitting in a cafe waiting for her grandmother to jump, and the two young men who work for the grandmothers try to harass Sarah, who tries to leave, but the two young men catch her and try to molest her, and Denise sees the fight, then intervenes and beats them until the police arrive and arrest them all. At the police station, the two men tell everyone that everything that's happened is just a plan by the two grandmothers to get Sarah closer to Denise, and the officer tells everyone that they'll all be released the next morning. Sarah fights with Denise all night and tells her that he's the reason they went into the prison in the first place. She feels tired and sleeps on Denise's shoulder, and the next morning Sarah and Denise leave the police station. Sarah was very afraid of the bike, but Denise doesn't care about her fear and starts to laugh at her. Sarah asks her to stop. She gets off the bike and tells him that he's an unscrupulous person because he's making fun of her fear. Then she tells him the truth and tells him that her parents died in a car accident and that's the reason for her fear. Denise apologizes to Sarah because he didn't know the truth. He then proposes that they sit on the beach together and confesses his love for her, saying he's loved her since childhood. But he tried to avoid her because she abandoned him 15 years ago when she left the life, and also tells her that he loves the helmet that Sarah broke, that she used to buy for him, and Dennis still remembers when he sees the helmet. Sarah also confesses her love to Denise and says the reason she's away from him is because Denise hasn't confessed her love to him before. Then the two decide to enter into a serious relationship with each other after all these years have passed, and they return home and are at the height of happiness and at the end of the day. Hal notices that Sarah's actions are very strange and asks her why. Sarah lies to Water and doesn't want to tell him the truth and tells him that she has decided to postpone the interview with Denise because she wants to face him first and the next day. Denise goes with Sarah to the beach and tells him that he had intended to confess his love to her 15 years ago and remembers that Sarah liked to collect rocks from all the countries she visits. Dennis says he has collected rocks from every country he visits and has kept the rocks in his house in the hope of making the Sarah wishes that she was happy to see the rocks, and it seems that their relationship is developing to the point that they are always happy to be together. And the next day, Sarah meets her assistant Aho, who tells her that Karam has forbidden all photographers to deal with Sarah. Sarah is about to lose all the projects she's worked so hard for, and she'll also lose the bet with Karam, so she's likely to lose her job under the deal so Karape promoted. Denise suggests that Sarah shoot 8 May on the cover of her magazine on condition that the number of people present during the shoot is reduced, as he refuses to let anyone discover his true identity. Sarah accepts Denise's conditions and thanks him for helping her, and the next day, during the shoot, Sarah is very happy to have Denise with her and tells AO that she feels like she's gone back in time because she notices that her relationship with Denise has remained the same than when they were young. Karam surprises Sarah by coming over and telling her he's come to tell Denise the truth, for he will tell her that Sarah is trying to use Denise to get a promotion at work. But Sarah tries to get around Karam and tells him she'll quit the job in exchange for keeping her secret because she'd rather lose her job than lose Denise's love. Kara ignores Sarah and tells Denise everything, where he tells her that Sarah was trying to get close to him in order to obtain a promotion. A promotion at work after interviewing her. Denise is very annoyed and embarrassed and asks Sarah to stay away from him and allows him to publish the article about their interview in his own way in exchange for her definitive exit from his life. Denise becomes depressed and feels sad because he loves Sarah and had no idea that she was taking advantage of him and lying to him for her own benefit. Sarah becomes depressed and sad because she loves Denise and was ready to quit her job, work to maintain her relationship with him. Hao talks to Sarah and tells her that she shouldn't give up the job so easily because Karam could fire her from the job if she is promoted at work, and then advises her to publish her article about Denise in order to become editor-in-chief. Sarah is convinced by her assistant Hao's words and decides to publish the article but expresses her love for Denise in the words she will write. Sarah writes that she discovered by chance that her old lover was the same photographer she'd been looking for several months, and that she fell back in love with him at first sight and after the article was published. Sarah finally became editor-in-chief, and Ka offered her resignation from the job as he agreed with her. At the same time, Denise read the article at night and was moved by his words and made sure she didn't want to take advantage of him, then decided to forgive him, and be with her at the celebration of her appointment to the new position. Sarah is surprised to see Denise and tells her that she loves him very much, and Denise tells her that he loves her too. Then they decide to start a new relationship and end their lives together, and at the end of the yarn, Hao also enters into a relationship with Olash, and the two grandmothers' plan succeeds in reuniting Sarah and Denise after a long wait.